All right, welcome back, welcome back. Just want to introduce our next guest. I want to first and foremost thank you, Evelyn Cardona. She is the founding executive director of the North Brooklyn Coalition Against Family Violence. And she's currently the director of operations for the HRA's Office of Domestic Violence Emergency Intervention Services. Just to give a quick background, we're all wearing purple today because it is Domestic Violence Awareness Month. James also, Jay Styles as he goes by on the show.
Yes.
His sister tragically lost her life last year to domestic violence. And I thought it was just a perfect show to bring you on, of course, for. And I think we probably all have some story, either personally or someone that we know is very dear to us that's either dealing with it or has dealt with it. And of course, you know, and you'll get into this, it's, you know, what brought you into that, as you will love to share, is because of your own personal experiences. So I think maybe we can start there. If you want to talk about what got you into the domestic violence trajectory, and we'll go from there.
Well, it's sad to say that I'm back in Bushwick hearing these stories again. Back in 1983, 85, I was going through domestic violence and suffered a broken pelvic bone, several orders of protection. The man almost killed me. And I have to say, if it wasn't for Assemblyman Lopez, I don't think I would have really made it.
Wow.
Vito Lopez. He was one of the people that took domestic violence by the horns and said no more. But I also got educated. I went to school. He was the backbone behind me and was one of the people that said, you know, why don't you open up an organization to do this? And I said, no, it's fine. I just want my degree. I'm in college. But before I got my bachelor's degree, Assemblyman Lopez was instrumental in organizing the community to get the Coalition Against Family Violence. And we wrote a proposal. Crime Victims Board started us off with $40,000.
Wow.
Which is basically nothing, but we had the support of such a powerful man, Assemblyman Lopez. We had Ridgewood Bushwick giving women housing. We had St. Nick's giving women housing. We had El Regreso helping people get into substance abuse, because we'll find out that that's one of the tracks that women go to when they can't get help. We had Nuestros Niños giving people daycare. Yeah, you can go to school. You can get your life together. So Los Sures helping us with housing. Robin Sorota, who's also a social worker, who is my mentor, and facilitated us doing a little support group that turned into this mega organization. We took Los Sures by a storm back in the 90s. And in 2006, I ended up leaving there because unfortunately the vision had someone gone from domestic violence to, it was the sexy item. And being a survivor, I couldn't deal with that. So it's okay, I moved on, doing bigger and better. I'm now the director of operations for the largest domestic violence shelter in the city. Still getting people into shelter, still telling people there's a way out of domestic violence, but it's through education, it's through community support. And that's what I do, in a nutshell. It's sad to hear that your sister was killed.
Yes.
When there's so much more help out there, that she was killed in Bushwick at the 83rd precinct, where I used to hold domestic violence groups and I used to hold groups for batterers. Because unless you deal with the real issue, society that condones it, absolutely, it's going to continue. It's going to continue. This is a generational curse that our community has allowed to happen.
For sure. Yeah. I mean, after all the reports and things that she made, my family feels like there could have been way more done to prevent this. And, and this goes for anybody else's story as well.
No one should be losing their life today. Not today.
Yeah.
Not today.
With all the resources.
With all the resources that we're putting out there, no, not today.
But it's interesting because I was having this conversation. I don't know if Bella was a part of it. We were talking about how many opportunities there are for the youth, generally, right? But it's almost like you don't have somebody connecting these the youth to these opportunities, and I think that was the hole in the crack in what happened to Sade, right? Like we have all the resources there, but we didn't have an Evelyn Cardona or a Vito Lopez, who's somebody you can just go to, and they were gonna jump on it. I think that was
2 o'clock in the morning.
that was, I think that's where the crack was.
And there's not enough education for the youth
for
to
young
know
girls.
that there's people out there like that as well. It's not talked about as much. So I think what you're doing is amazing, and it needs to be spread more than it is already.
I think it needs to start in elementary schools.
Yes, I agree.
The same way we're educating children on the gay movement and all those things so that they can open their minds, and we're educating kids on mental health issues because it is mental health issue month, but kids need to know that no, your father can't hit you or touch you, and your mother can't do it either. And when you are a certain age, you shouldn't allow a man to talk to you in a certain way. But I see things changing where women are getting the sense that, oh, I'm empowered, so let me tell this boy off. That's not being empowered.
Right.
You know, it takes more of a woman to be quiet, just look and do what you gotta do. Get that order of protection. Get out, leave, walk away. You know, and say, I can hold my head up high. I have an education. I don't need this in my life.
Well, I'm happy you said that way, because I think sometimes the lesson I've been learning lately, sometimes silence gets more done than talking, right? Just be silent and do what you have to do, right? Especially when you're in a bad situation. Even just making a phone call can lead to getting smacked in the face, you know what I mean? So it's like, you have to know how to deal with the situation you're in. And luckily, we do have technology where you can send a text without no one even knowing you're sending that text message, right? So I think it's like what you mentioned. A lot of it has to do with education and letting people know that the resources are there, which is why I wanted to have Evelyn there, because I wanted her to kind of talk about those kinds of resources that are out there for that.
Well, one of the most important ones is that hotline, 1-800-621-HOPE. It's open 24 hours a day. You can call and say, my name is Pepe. You don't have to give your real name. And this is what I'm going through. And I need to get out now. They'll tell you where to go. Wait for me on the corner. Somebody will pick you up if they have to pick you up. They'll give you a confidential site. And you go there. You can be there. They'll give you housing. There's Section 8 vouchers. There's NYCHA vouchers. There's so many things that they can do. A lot of the times when the women come to me, and we're also accepting men, transgender, and when they come to us, they're like, I gotta get a job. I gotta do this. I don't want to be here. I'm like, well, I want you to relax. I want you to go to sleep and wake up in the morning and just relax again. Start building yourself up so that no one can take this away from you. So that no one, oh, but I left my 65-inch flat screen TV at home and I'm in a shelter. And I said, this is not a shelter, this is a safe home.
Yeah, exactly.
Very different. You didn't come here because you didn't pay your rent. You didn't come here because you were in a fire. You came here because you were in war. So now we're giving you a place that you're safe.
Right. You can't be afraid to accept this type of help either. Your life is way more important. A lot of people are scared. You know what I mean, to be vocal about this to their family and closest friends, but you need to say something. You need to be vocal about this.
It's difficult. That, like, the thing is when you're going, I'm sorry, I've experienced this, not to the degree where I was hospitalized, thank God, but I have experienced a relationship where the guy was physically hitting me, and it's embarrassing.
Yeah.
It's not easy to talk about that. When I was going through it, I told no one, 0 people. And it took me a few years before I was able to talk about it. And now I can talk about it because it's so far behind me that it kind of feels removed from me, because I've more gotten over it. And so it's difficult because you don't want to, like, I mean, maybe not everyone will feel embarrassed. Some people will feel more comfortable openly talking about it and coming out. But for me, like, I didn't tell a soul. Maybe I'm too prideful or whatever, but I don't think I'm the only person that's like that. I'm sure a lot of people will feel embarrassed and won't feel comfortable to talk about this with other people. So that's not something that you could just be like, I mean, you're right. They should tell someone. You're absolutely right. I'm just telling you that
it's hard.
It's
not
hard.
Yeah, I know it's not easy.
Because for sure, they like, maybe like in my household too, you were raised to be tough.
Yeah.
Right? So there's like
not
shame.
knowing what that is. Not knowing to put a name to it. Domestic violence. Oh my God, that's not me. But meanwhile, we were raised that way, And I always use my life as an example. My father never hurt my mother. He was a reverend, never touched her.
Right.
However, I never saw him kiss her. I never saw him hug her. He would come home from work, y mi chancleta, and this, and my mother catered to him.
Right.
So then when I got married, and the love of my life beat the crap out of me on my wedding night,
Wow.
but then he kissed me and said he was sorry because he just wanted to be intimate, and I didn't know. I was like, oh no, he loves me. He kissed me. And my mother-in-law telling me, well, didn't you know? Didn't your mother tell you what it was to be submissive to a man? So I was a Pentecostal kid. I was 16 years old when I got married to this man. So I didn't know. Many years later, broken arms, black eyes. He would give me a black eye, buy me a car. Break my arm, take me to Disney World. So I was like, he loves me. I didn't know.
Right.
Yeah.
Once you get educated and you start to realize that, wow, domestic violence is economic abuse, sexual abuse, emotional abuse, psychological, forget the physical.
Sometimes it's worse though.
Yeah,
Psychological is
the
worse.
physical heals. The psychological, people don't get it.
Yeah, exactly.
And then when they tell you, oh, they're hello, come back home to me. So you go back home, don't go to shelter. You know, Puerto Rican people, Hispanics are very prideful.
Right, very, very.
Tú no tienes que estar en un shelter.
Puerto Rican,
Yeah,
exactly.
You know, Dominicans, I mean, we're all the same.
Yeah.
But, you know, tú no tienes que estar en un shelter, come home. Then you go home,
Yeah.
your kids touch one of the little figuritas.
That's it.
You know, oh my God, they broke my little figurita from somebody's 316.
Right.
You know, I mean, you start to bother.
Yeah.
There's a saying in Spanish that says, después de 3 días muerto apesta. You know, in a shelter, that's your place.
Right.
Nobody can tell you anything.
Right.
So I never had the luxury to go into a shelter, but you know, sometimes it was easier to go home to the bed rather than having to hear my father, you know what, you made your bed, now you have to lie in it.
Yeah.
You know, es que tú eres muy malcriada. I told you not to marry him. You know,
Right. Instead of being supportive.
right, but in
And
their
that's-
mind
that's
they
a
were
problem.
supportive.
Right, and that's a problem with our community, for sure.
Right, we have to be able to hold PTA meetings to educate people on what domestic violence is. That economic abuse could be him not paying the rent for you, him eating up all your food stamps, all the food that you got on food stamps, that again is illegal and is fraud, that if they catch you, 10 years you're not gonna be without benefits for your kids. So all these things they use, and it's power and control. So my thing now, my life has changed where I go into churches. I'm also a reverend. I go into churches and I'll be up there preaching and telling the pastors, you are committing domestic violence here. There's something called spiritual abuse.
Yeah.
When you're telling all these women what they can wear, what they can't wear, who they can talk to, who they can't talk to. I mean, domestic violence, it's a whole myriad of things. So, I mean, we could be here on a weekly basis talking about it. And I'll come back as many times as you want me to come back. But this day and age, no one should be dying.
Yeah.
No one. We need to re-educate our judges. We've had so many judges that we helped get elected to the bench. We have to go back. What are you doing around domestic violence?
Remind them.
That's right. Remember me? What are you doing around domestic violence? If it means taking those pictures and standing in front of there in silence.
Yeah.
You know, let people ask, why are you here? You know, we have a buddy system that we had at the Coalition Against Family Violence that when I was in family court or criminal court, they were afraid. I would make one phone call and I could activate 300 women in less than half an hour and they would go down to court.
Wow.
You know, and that's what needs to happen again. I mean, I was just counting my fingers. 1994, we're in 2019. How could somebody still get killed in the community where this agency all started? I am, you know, I'm flabbergasted. But we have to hold people accountable. We have to hold our principals accountable. We have to hold our churches accountable. What are you doing having a batterer on an altar preaching? No, he needs to be down. If there's an order of protection, take it to the church. Take it to the school. Take it to wherever this person is. They need to be shamed. If it's a woman, it needs to happen too.
Yeah.
Because I see so many women, men coming into the shelter broken.
It's happening.
We know that by far, women are the highest probability of being killed, but I also see men that are being stabbed, that are not saying that, oh no, I got mugged. Yeah, well, your kid is saying that it was mom.
Stabbed you. Yeah.
You know, so we have to be unbiased
Yeah.
and understand that it affects It doesn't have a socioeconomic background. It doesn't affect men or women. It affects everyone. Gays, sexual, heterosexuals. It affects everyone. But we have to make sure that right now, if you hear your next door neighbor screaming, be proactive. Call 911.
Absolutely.
You know, you don't have to give your name. Let the police come out. When the police comes out, they're gonna do a domestic violence incident report. They have to.
Yeah.
Whether you say, oh no, it was my kid that was playing Xbox. 5 years later, you decide to take a stand.